Hi there, and welcome to the Surviving and Thriving in Residency podcast. I'm Charley Lowry, your host and director of GME Relations at PracticeLink. This show is all about exploring the world of graduate and undergraduate medical education. We'll dive into the real-life experiences, successes, and challenges faced by medical students, residents, and fellows, while also highlighting valuable tools to support you, whether that's financial planning, student aid, or the many free resources provided by PracticeLink. If you're thinking about med school, currently studying, or deep into residency or fellowship, this podcast is here to offer insights and support to make your journey a bit easier than those before you. Today's guest embodies everything the podcast stands for: resilience, reinvention, and relentless commitment to patients. Dr. Olga Gross was born and raised in a small town in Ukraine. At just 16 years old, she earned a full scholarship to medical school in Bulgaria once she finished her undergraduate studies. Her dream was to return home and serve her country, but history had other plans. Political instability in Ukraine caused her inability to return home from Bulgaria, and instead she had to start over in the United States. What followed is one of the most remarkable journeys we've ever featured on Surviving and Thriving in Residency. After immigrating to the U.S., Dr. Gross didn't just continue her medical path. She rebuilt it from the ground up. She earned a master's in public health, became a registered nurse, then a nurse practitioner, working on the front lines in ICUs, emergency rooms, COVID disaster response, and underserved communities across the country, all while ultimately returning to residency training in family medicine. She has practiced emergency medicine, published in peer-reviewed journals, served vulnerable populations, and navigated the unimaginable challenge of having her residency program unexpectedly close, only to persevere and continue her training at Texas Tech University Health Science Center in Amarillo. Dr. Gross is also a recipient of the PracticeLink First Practice Fund Scholarship, which recognizes residents who demonstrate exceptional dedication to medicine and service to others. Her story is not just about becoming a physician, it is about becoming unbreakable. Dr. Gross, Olga, welcome to the show. It is truly an honor to have you with us today.
Hello, Charlie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and grateful for this opportunity to share my story and my journey with your listeners.
Good. I'm so glad to have you on the program. And a little bit later, more towards the end, we will talk a little bit about the First Practice Fund and go into a little detail on that. But we always start the podcast when we're talking to residents and students, going back into your early years, going back to the beginning. So for you, you grew up in a small town in Ukraine and entered medical school. Tell me about the first time that you ever thought, I'm going to be a doctor. What inspired that, or who inspired that?
So I knew from middle school that I wanted to become a doctor, a calling that grew stronger and stronger as my own family faced serious medical challenges. And witnessing the impact of these illnesses on the people that I love deepened my determination to pursue medicine. The compassion, skills, and kindness that were shown by the healthcare professionals who cared for my family inspired me to make a difference for others who face similar challenges and difficult diagnoses. And although those experiences were frightening and overwhelming, they were also the spark that ignited my curiosity about the medical field for the first time. I became fascinated by human biology, disease processes, and most importantly, what can be done to prevent illnesses and improve lives.
Wow. Do you know what age it was when you decided to actually pursue medicine? I mean, as far as how old you were when you thought, okay, I'm going to have to start applying to medical school.
It was around middle school age.
Okay.
And once my family endured a lot of medical challenges, it kind of definitely made my determination even stronger.
Sure.
And I started to prepare for application process and what it will take me to get into medical school.
Wow. It's just incredible. And so you of course, applied to medical school. Tell me about that process. You did not, of course, go to medical school in Ukraine, but tell me about applying to medical school and what that was like, if you would.
Sure, yes. So, first of all, I grew up in a small town in Ukraine, and growing up in a small town of Ukraine shaped so much of who I am today. My childhood was very simple, but it was full of kindness, community, and strong sense of responsibility. Coming from a small town taught me resilience, how to work hard, to adapt, to make most of every opportunity. And in a small town, everyone knows everyone. So you grow up feeling connected to the people around you. But at the same time, you become very aware of the challenges families face, especially when it comes to healthcare. So, one thing that often surprises people is that starting graduate degree at 16 or 17 is actually quite typical for Ukraine. Our school system is structured so that students finish high school earlier than in the United States. So entering medical school so early was not really unusual where I grew up. So once I became 16, it was time to apply to medical school. I explored the opportunities and I found out that I was eligible for a full scholarship in Bulgaria, which is a different country, which would mean to learn new system, new language, and moving process itself was very challenging, but I decided to take on the opportunity and move to Bulgaria.
Wow. And were there other students that you were able to connect with there from Ukraine?
Absolutely. So every year, Bulgarian schools accept several Ukrainian immigrants, Ukrainian citizens to their schools on a special program, which will allow us to complete our medical education there and financially be free in terms of not paying for anything. And it was very nice opportunity. So I take on the opportunity and I did connect with a lot of Ukrainian people who were on the same path as myself.
Yeah, that makes it a little easier for the such a huge transition to a new country with a different language and different system altogether. If you can have that kind of support network from people that you're familiar with, right? That's a huge support.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So tell me about when you were about to finish up medical school and you realized you couldn't safely return home to Ukraine. Tell me about that moment and what all happened around that.
Sure, yes. That moment is still very vivid for me. I finished medical school, I worked as an emergency medicine physician, and was fully prepared to return home in Ukraine. And my plan was very clear: go back, serve my community, and build my career close to my family. But as political situation deteriorated and the conflict escalated, it became obvious that returning was not just difficult, it was unsafe. It felt like the ground shifted under my feet. One day I had a future I could picture, and the next day the future was gone. So emotionally, it was pretty devastating. Living in your country is one thing, but living the life you thought you were going to live is completely different. I felt grief, confusion, and even guilt all at once. Grief for the home I was losing, confusion about what path would I take on now, and guilt for being the one who got to leave when so many people I loved were still there. And it wasn't a clean break. It took some time. At first, I tried to push through it, telling myself I just needed to focus on the next step, learning a new system, taking exams, earning new degrees. But eventually, I had to acknowledge that I was grieving not just for a place, but for my identity. I had to rebuild my sense of who I was a physician in a completely different country and a completely different language, starting from scratch. And accepting that took honesty and patience with myself. What kept me going was the purpose. Even when everything felt uncertain, the one thing that never changed was why I wanted to be a doctor in the first place. that calling stayed steady even when the world around me did not. And I was lucky to have people who believed in me, my mentors, my colleagues, friends who reminded me that my journey did not end just because it changed direction. Every step I took, even the difficult ones, brought me closer to becoming the physician I always wanted to be.
Hello, I'm Georgia Scott from Practice Link, and I'm excited to introduce an upcoming podcast from the Practice Link Media Network, MD Bookshelf. My new weekly show will invite physicians and healthcare professionals to share the books that help them push through burnout, find clarity, or see their careers in a new way. Honest conversations, unexpected reads, and a little inspiration along the way. MD Bookshelf, launching soon.
Could you speak English coming into the US or very little?
I did speak English, but it was very little. We did study English in high school, but it was British English and it was not related or covered any medical terminology. So, definitely going into medicine in English was a very, very challenging path.
hmm And then what about family? I guess you also left family in Ukraine as well.
Yes, unfortunately, my family is in Ukraine and I'm here by myself. It was extremely difficult to leave them there, but they don't want to move,
hmm
and I respect that. But definitely miss them tremendously, and very difficult to be alone in a completely different country.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. Do you get to talk to them very often?
Yes, absolutely. Thank God for all the social media and internet that we have available nowadays that connect me with them every day. So that's a huge relief to be able to connect with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can have support everywhere, but there's no support like the support of your family. I think, even if it's just seeing them and talking to them, it always kind of refreshes your soul, I think.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your strength during all this time? What was the strength that kept you going when everything was uncertain? Your passion for medicine must have been just overwhelmingly strong to get to this point in your life.
Yes, unfortunately, my path has never been straight. When I came to the United States, I quickly realized that my medical degree alone was not enough to step right into the role I had trained for. I had a choice, either give up on the idea of practicing medicine here or find a way of slowly, deliberately rebuild my career from the ground up. And for me, giving up never felt like a real option. So what kept me going was simple fact that the desire to be a physician never went away. Even when the process felt long and exhausting, that core calling stayed the same. I did not rebuild my career because it was easy, but I rebuilt it because I could not imagine my life without medicine. Step by step was my only way forward. And so I took each step as an investment in the future I still believe I could have.
hmm Wow. So you came into the US, and then what was your next step? Once you got to the US, what happened? Where did you end up? What city did you land in, and how did you get back into school?
Well, I came to Texas and started working as a medical scribe for a hospitalist group. And I realized that having my degree was not enough to go back to practicing medicine in this country. So I had to gain more experience and more education in order to become what I always wanted to be. And so each step I took, earning my master's in public health, becoming a registered nurse, and then nurse practitioner, was both practical and intentional. The master's in public health helped me understand the bigger picture of health systems and population health in the United States. Becoming a nurse allowed me to be at the bedside and to learn the culture of American healthcare, to understand how teams function, how to build trust and credibility. And then working as a nurse practitioner later on let me step back into provider's role and make clinical decisions and reconnect with the identity that I had as a physician abroad.
Hmm. Wow. It's incredible. I think your work as an RN, I think that's a game changer for a physician to have been an RN because many times I think the nurses are overlooked or you forget how much they do. But if you've been there and done that, it makes you so appreciative of those nurses that are there with you on the front lines.
Absolutely. Working as RN shaped me in the ways that traditional medical training alone never could. Those years grounded me in the human side of medicine. As a nurse, I learned how what it means to be at the bedside, really listening, noticing the small changes, understanding the emotional landscape of patients and families. I learned how much trust is built not through big decisions, but through consistent presence, clear communication, and compassion during the hardest moments of someone's life.
Yeah. I feel like the nurses tend to step in and do whatever is needed. Even if it's not within their role, they oftentimes are there and a lot of times silently doing things in the background that is so necessary and needed. So yeah, that definitely would shape you into an incredible physician.
Thank you. I admire nurses and what they do. I think being a nurse is one of the most challenging and hard working profession out there. You have to be an amazing person to be a nurse.
Yes, yes, I agree. So what would you say to residents who feel like maybe they're behind in their career timeline?
I would tell them that medicine is not a race. It's a long, unpredictable path, and everyone's timeline looks different. What matters is growth and not speed. So every detour, every delay, every challenge adds depth to the kind of physician you become. You are not behind, you are on your own path, and it will eventually lead you to where you are meant to go.
That's great advice. I think that's very, very true. Let's talk a little bit about your work on the front lines of crisis, working in the ICU, working during COVID, and working in emergency medicine. So, those are some of the most intense environments out there in healthcare. What did those frontline experiences teach you about yourself?
Well, those frontline years changed me in ways I'm still unpacking. Working during COVID disaster response pushes you to the limits physically, mentally, emotionally, and teaches you who you are when everything around you is falling apart. I learned that I'm steadier under pressure than I ever realized.
I think so. Yeah, I think you would be. Yeah, with all of that behind you, for
Right?
sure. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
I also learned that I can make critical decisions in chaos, that I can stay present for patients and families even when the situations is heartbreaking and the compassion doesn't weaken you in crisis, but it more like anchors you.
Uh-huh.
It definitely tests you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. How did they shape your approach to patient care?
Well, I think that those experiences definitely reshape my entire approach to patient care. When you have held an iPad for a family saying goodbye or
Mhm.
watch someone fight for every breath, you really stop seeing medicine as just diagnosis or treatment plan. You start seeing the whole human being in front of you. Their hopes, their story, their fears. I definitely became more patient, more attentive. I learned to communicate clearly, to slow down when everything feels fast, and to never underestimate the power of simply being there and listening.
Mhm. Yeah, and that means so much to so many people, just being there, just being present and listening. That's an amazing takeaway from that.
At Premier Health, we care, we teach, we innovate, and we serve. As a private, nonprofit academic health system, Premier Health has joined forces with Wright State University and the Boonshoft School of Medicine to lead the advancement of academic medicine in Southwest Ohio. Our partnership fuels medical education, supports vital research, and drives exceptional clinical care for our communities. Explore the many professional and personal advantages of practicing medicine with Premier Health and Wright State University at premierhealth.com/careers.
So, how do you manage emotional burnout after seeing trauma?
I had to learn how to protect my emotional energy. You can go through so much trauma that we all been through as during pandemic without finding ways to process it. It meant leaning on colleagues who understood what I'm going through, also giving myself permission to feel what I feel, and creating boundaries so that I don't carry every loss home with me. I also learned how to celebrate the small wins, every extubation, recovery, discharge, or moments of connection, because those are the things that really refill you, refresh your soul, like you're saying. Frontline medicine taught me resilience, but and also taught me humility. Reminded me that being a good clinician is not just about surviving the hard moments, but it's about staying human through them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little about your residency program closure. So, there are a few things more destabilizing than a residency program shutting down, and it does happen. Where were you when you found out your program was closing? And what was going through your mind when you found that out?
So when I got the news, I was in the middle of an ordinary day on service, tired, focused, and doing what every resident does, trying to take good care of my patients while keeping up with the pace of the hospital. And then the message came through, and everything around me seemed to freeze for a moment. It really felt surreal, almost like I had misread it. Residency programs don't just close, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the place you've committed your life to, not the training you have worked so hard to earn.
Mm-hmm.
So my first reaction was disbelief and followed quickly by a wave of fear. I had already rebuilt my career once across countries, languages, and roles, and suddenly I was facing the possibility of having to start over yet again. So I had a lot of questions at that moment. Questions like, what happens now? And will I have a place to finish my training? And how do I even explain this to my family or friends? Or am I going to lose everything I've worked so hard for? It was really a moment of severe uncertainty, to say at least. But at the same time, I also felt familiar determination because I had survived much bigger battles, like living Ukraine, rebuilding my career step by step, and navigating the pandemic. And I reminded myself that this time I wasn't starting from zero. I had skills, experience, resilience. I had a deep commitment to medicine. So that steadiness really helped me to take next steps. Even the path had felt completely unclear. I still decided to stay positive and fight for my future.
Mm-hmm. So then what were the next steps? Did the program help you out with trying to find placement into another program, or were you left to do that on your own?
It was a mixture. It was a mixture of us looking for a place to live, and by emailing and cold calling around. But at the same time, our program also tried to assist and help the right program for us. but definitely navigating that period felt like balancing on a shifting ground, Professionally, you have to stay focused on what you can control, continue to show up for your patients, keeping clinical skills sharp and preparing yourself for whatever came first. I leaned heavily on discipline, trying to update my application material, reaching out to the mentors, staying proactive. But it was a strange mixture of doing my job as if nothing had happened, while at the same time trying to prepare for everything to change completely. And then, personally, it was even harder because there is that unique kind of exhaustion that comes from having to rebuild your life one more time. And this felt like another test of your resilience. But, I kept reminding myself of the journey that I had already survived, leaving Ukraine, starting over a new country, rebuilding my career. And I have done hard things before. And so that history, that foundation gave me confidence that I could do it again. And I also leaned on the people who understood what I'm going through. Talking with my co-residents, mentors, friends helped me feel less alone in this uncertainty. I made space for some small routines that brought stability, like time with people that I care about. So in the end, what really steadied me was the purpose. I knew that I knew why I was doing all of this. I was fighting for the chance to continue to become physician. I worked my whole life to be. And so that kept me moving forward, even when that path felt completely unclear. Ultimately, each of us found the program that would take us on. And I feel extremely blessed to be where I am right now.
Uh-huh. So now, if you would, tell me where you are now, what residency program you're with now, and how long you've been there.
Actually, the previous program in New Mexico closed its doors on December 31st, 2025. And I started my new program at Texas Tech University Health Science Center in Amarillo, Texas, as of a week ago. So it was January 12th was my first day in my new program.
Wow. So tell me about that just a little bit. How did you feel walking in? I feel like you might have been confident walking in the first day because of all you've been through. You have the right to be confident in yourself for sure. But was there a part of you walking in that first week last week thinking, oh my gosh, what were your feelings?
It was a mixture of uncertainty. Will they like me? Will I like them? It was an excitement and to actually being able to continue becoming the doctor that I wanted always to be. Because when the program was closing, we all thought, is it the end of our careers? Is it? So being in a place where they actually want me, being in a place where I can be successful and continue my path was a truly blessing. And I felt really excited and felt very blessed and happy to be where I am.
That's nice. That's so nice. And are there other international medical graduates in your program?
So my co-resident from previous program in New Mexico came along with me. So it's two of us in this program. So that makes it so much easy and wonderful. And we both are foreign medical graduates. And as far as I know, this program in Amarillo has another, I believe, one other foreign medical graduate, because it's a large program and we really don't ask that much about where you're coming from in terms of the schools. And probably I just didn't have time to connect and learn more about them. But I do think that's one more person who is a foreign medical graduate, but majority are American medical graduates.
And let me throw this question at you. Are you someone who believes that everything happens for a reason? When you look back and you think, "Oh, well, this program closed down. That's just one more thing that's happened." And it all builds you and it builds your character. It's part of who you are. So do you look back and think, "Yeah, I'm starting to see why this happened or why that happened. There's a reason for it?"
Absolutely. I tell this to myself every day that everything happens for a reason. You are on path where you meant to be. Sometimes things are blessing in disguise. You are absolutely right. Everything happens for a reason.
We try to control it, and we think we're in control of so much in life, but I think sometimes you just have to accept that things do happen for a reason and look back and appreciate the part of the journey that you had to go through. Sometimes things aren't a straight path, but there's a reason for that.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So your career seems to consistently center around underserved populations. Where does that passion come from?
Well, my commitment to underserved communities comes from lived experience and not theory. I grew up watching what happens when people don't have access to care, when illness becomes a burden that a family carries alone, when location or poverty determines who gets treatment and who does not. My own family's medical struggles shaped me long before I even put on a white coat. I learned early that health is not just biology, it's circumstances, opportunities, and sometimes just pure luck. That understanding never left me. As an immigrant rebuilding my career step by step, I found myself living on the margins again, navigating systems I didn't fully understand, feeling unseen, starting from the bottom. It gave me deep empathy for people who are overlooked or underestimated or who don't have any access to care, right? Underserved populations. And so working in ICU, ER, and during COVID only reinforced that people with the fewest resources often face the greatest risks. Those experiences didn't just influence my mission, but they crystallized it really. My sense of purpose in medicine is rooted in belief that everyone deserves dignity, access, and someone who will fight for them. I know that it feels like to be vulnerable because I've been there. So I know what it is to have limited options, to depend on the compassion of others. And that's why I'm drawn to the places where the need is greatest. Caring for underserved population is just not, it's not just a part of my career, but it's the thread that ties together every chapter of my life. Um, yes.
I love it. I love it. I grew up in rural Appalachia. Healthcare was, you to get to a bigger hospital, you would have to drive over an hour, one doctor practicing most of the time. And so, it means a lot. It truly means a lot. I grew up watching people struggle to get proper health care and to just get the same treatment as everybody else took for granted. And it's hard. So the rural population, that's so appreciative of folks like you. Yeah.
And on the other side, you, as a provider, it feels so much more rewarding when you give the care to the patients who didn't have that access, who are underserved. It makes you feel so much, the experience itself is so much more rewarding because
Mhm.
they appreciate you for care that you provide and that others take for granted. So
Yes. So true. It's so true. So what keeps you hopeful about the future of healthcare?
well, what keeps me hopeful is the people. I've seen extraordinary teamwork in the worst circumstances. Nurses, techs, physicians, respiratory therapists, like everyone pulling together when it mattered most. I've seen young trainees who are thoughtful and determined to make healthcare better. I've seen patients who show resilience that humbles me. I've seen how even small changes, better workflows, support leadership, or more inclusive culture can really transform the care. And the system itself may be imperfect, but the people inside it are remarkable. That's where my hope comes from. That's why I believe the future of healthcare can still move in the right direction, one compassionate interaction at a time.
So you've survived more than most physicians ever face. Tell me what thriving means to you now.
Thriving now means having this space to grow with purpose, not just enduring challenges, but using everything you've lived through to become a more grounded, compassionate, and intentional physician. And it's all about moving forward.
So true. It's all about moving forward. The options are limitless, truly. What are you most proud of overcoming?
What I'm most proud of overcoming is the long, winding journey it took to rebuild my career. Immigration hurdles, years of retraining, the setbacks, the moments of uncertainty. Every step taught me resilience, and that's become one of my strongest tools in medicine.
Nice. So, what do you wish you had known as a medical student that you know now? What advice would you give yourself?
I wish I had known that the path is not always straight and that detours, setbacks, and unexpected turns don't mean you are failing. They are often the very experiences that shape your resilience and your voice as a physician. I also wish I had understood earlier that medicine is not about mastering knowledge, but it's about learning how to stay human while carrying enormous responsibility. And the sooner you embrace that balance, the more grounded and fulfilled you become in this work.
hmm What keeps you grounded outside of medicine?
What keeps me grounded is the time with the people who know me simply as Olga or mom,
hmm
not as a physician.
hmm
Also, watching TV, cooking, staying connected to my roots all help me remember that there is full life beyond the hospital. And those everyday rituals give me perspective and keep me centered no matter how intense the work becomes.
That's great. That's great. How do you keep your mind, body, and spirit in check? Do you have a regular workout routine or a regular diet or anything like that?
I do try to follow the routines of exercising, eating healthy, and spending time with the people around me that value and care about me.
hmm
And I think that's really helpful and keeps me in check for sure.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. If a resident out there listening to our program is struggling, what would you tell them directly?
I would tell them this: you are not failing, you are growing through one of the hardest parts of becoming a physician. The doubt, the exhaustion, the pressure, none of that means that you are not meant for this. It just means that you are human. And being a human is what really makes you a better doctor in the long run. So hold on to the purpose, lean on the people who care about you, and remember that this chapter does not define your whole story.
I love it. So, you were selected as a recipient of the Practice Link First Practice Fund Scholarship, which supports residents who exemplify perseverance and service. What did receiving this scholarship mean to you personally?
Well, Charlie, receiving a scholarship was a really meaningful boost in my professional journey. It helped me relieve some of the financial pressure associated with relocation and rent in a new place, allowing me to stay focused on my training and long term goals. And beyond the financial support, the scholarship also served as recognition of my hard work and potential. And it encouraged me to continue investing in my education and professional development.
It was really perfect timing. Like you said, with the move and the transition to the new program. Yeah. Well, I cannot truly, I can't thank you enough for being on the show today and sharing your story. Just amazing. Your story is a powerful reminder that there's no single path to becoming a great physician, and that resilience can turn even the hardest detours into purpose. Thank you for your honesty, your courage, and for the work you do every day for patients and communities that need you the most. To our listeners, if today's episode resonated with you, remember that you don't have to navigate residency or your first practice alone. Practice Link is here to support you with free CV reviews for residents and fellows and medical students, the First Practice Fund Scholarship, and our trusted First Practice Guide built to help you confidently navigate your transition from training to practice, as well as this podcast. You can find these resources at practicelink.com. If you found this episode meaningful, please share it with a colleague who might need encouragement today. I'm Charley Lowry, and this has been Surviving and Thriving in Residency by Practice Link, because your story in medicine is still being written. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you again, Olga.
Thank you so much for having me.